I saw a disabled character be written out of a Broadway play in real time. Hello, my name is Kurt Wilkinson. I'm a professional actor based in San Antonio, Texas with disabilities, and I use a wheelchair in my day-to-day life. The Broadway play in question is Finding Helena, a love story that crosses enemy lines. It's basically Romeo and Juliet, but it's the Holocaust. And it's a musical!
Springtime for Hitler.
In 2023, I was asked by the playwright to audition for a reading of the new musical Finding Helena in San Antonio. I was cast as Mendel, one of the characters who are actively resisting the Nazis and hiding in the underground of Warsaw, Poland. Mendel uses a wheelchair in the world of the play, which serves to highlight the over 200,000 people with disabilities that were killed during the Holocaust, determined to be unfit for life because they were disabled. The San Antonio reading went great. We had a packed house, people loved the show. The plan was to do another reading in New York, and I was told by the producers of the show that I would be one of the lucky few from the San Antonio cast who would be able to go to New York. Months went by, with me and the producers occasionally talking about the planned New York trip. It was actually when we were just about to make the purchases for the plane ticket and hotel, and I was calling the producers to get some details, when I was told that I would not be a part of the reading in New York. What I was told at the time was that the people they were working with in New York wanted the cast to only be local New York actors, so nobody from the San Antonio reading would be reading in New York. I said that's okay, but I was quite friendly with the producers at the time, so I did make a request that whoever replaces me as Mendel is a performer who uses a wheelchair. More weeks pass. Cast announcements for the New York reading are posted publicly, one at a time. I see one, and it's someone else who was also in the San Antonio reading. And suddenly I am quite suspicious and scared. Sure enough, the next day I see the announcement for Mendel, and it's not a performer who uses a wheelchair. I do call the producers and ask them how the process of casting was. They tell me they're so excited that their cast now has more women. Yay! Diversity! And they did inform me that they had to change the script for the new performer. So, the disabled Mendel is dead. Thanos snapped out of existence. When faced with two terrible options between having an able-bodied person play a disabled character and taking away that character's disability altogether, that's what they chose. Of course, the actual correct choice is to not get yourself in this situation in the first place. I want to make it clear that I don't want the New York reading to be canceled or for the musical to flop because of this. I, at this point, don't want or expect anything specific from the producers of this show. I'm not naming names for good reason. Do not harass people. I know that the producers, every step of the way, thought that they were making the right decisions. Or at least, what the New York bigwigs thought the right decision was. And I understand that there's a lot of factors that go into making a casting decision. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say. But those producers and those New York bigwigs have to live with the decision they made to remove disability from a Broadway musical so that they didn't have to have a person in a wheelchair in their cast. Is there a lesson we can learn from all this? Well, if the musical is successful in the future and you're a theater kid watching this, you can impress and depress your friends with this very sad trivia fact that there used to be a disabled character in this show. But this story concerns me not as an actor who lost a part, but as someone with disabilities looking at our current media landscape. How many characters with disabilities can you think of? Now, how many of those are played by disabled actors? If you can come up with more than 3 off the top of your head, I'm impressed. There is definitely a problem with a low number of actors with disabilities in our media, and a low number of characters for them to play. Ali Stroker winning the Tony in 2019 wasn't a signal that disability equality has been achieved on Broadway. It was a signal for you to panic that it took 72 years for someone in a wheelchair to win a Tony. Ali Stroker was also the first person in a wheelchair to perform on Broadway at all in 2015. Just 10 years ago, it would literally be impossible for you to name a Broadway performer who uses a wheelchair. I want to stress the importance of casting performers with disabilities for disabled characters. There are the obvious benefits that it promotes diversity, increases visibility of disability in culture, and that actors living with a similar disability to a character are more likely to play that disability authentically. But also, in the professional acting world, roles are cast based on type. Type in casting is quite complicated, but basically, if you're looking to become an actor, casting directors will put you into a box based on how you physically look, and they will likely only consider you for roles made for that box. When I started my professional career, I very quickly learned that my type is wheelchair user. If you have a visible disability, it is very likely your type is your disability. So if we allow able-bodied people to take the roles made for the disability box, then that's all our roles gone. We could try to get cast in non-disabled roles, but to successfully do that, we not only have to prove that we're good enough to play the role, but also so much better than every other able-bodied person auditioning for the role that the director can deal with whatever inconvenience, major or minor, that they have to deal with casting a performer with disabilities. I dreamed of a future where Finding Helena does become the successful Broadway musical it wants to be, and Mendel, in a wheelchair on a Broadway stage, encourages an entire generation of people with disabilities, maybe even to become actors. But if this reading is successful, and they continued with their planned full-stage production in fall of 2024, will Mendel be disabled or not? Probably not, because the able-bodied Mendel is easier to cast. Mendel's disability was erased because of the producer's perception of a lack of performers in wheelchairs, even in New York City. What a missed opportunity for the play and for the world. A diverse chorus of characters all struggling to survive and fight under the Nazi regime can teach the world that it was not only the Jews targeted by the Holocaust, but it was also the Roma, and the Slavs, and the disabled, and anyone who didn't fit into their narrow views of sexuality and gender. This must not be forgotten. We've gotten ourselves into a weird chicken and the egg type situation, where writers are discouraged from writing disabled characters due to the lack of performers with disabilities to play those roles, and people with disabilities are discouraged from becoming performers because of the systemic barriers and lack of opportunities in the industry. I would encourage more people with disabilities to get into acting, but you've seen how tough it is for us. There's not a simple and easy solution to all of this. It takes time and all of us together to fix this. Please think more about the media you consume and pay attention to who gets to be the storytellers. I'm trying to do my part, being one of the few disabled actors of the world, and to call out ableism in the industry when I see it. Thanks for listening.